everyone, and welcome back to Mariana Mass Books. My name is Mariana, and today I am here with a little update on my Mexican history reading project and a part 2 of my Ancientsathon TBR, which I know I already uploaded an Ancientsathon video last Sunday, but I have no self-control, and even if I told myself that I wasn't going to give myself books for every prompt, I did this week. So I'm going to share that as well. But it has to do with my Mexican history reading project. So yeah, a little recap. Just if you watched my videos at the beginning of the year, when I did my reading plans for the year video, I mentioned I had a personal reading project, which was a project to read more Mexican history books. I said that at the beginning of the year, and then I read some things for this project, and then the past months happened and my reading went downhill, and we all know the story, and so that project got into the back burner and I hadn't thought about it. But that changed this week, and I want to do a little update because I know that there were several people that told me that they were excited to go along that project with me. I mean, not to read, but to hear what I had to say. And so I thought I would make a little video on the things that I thought this week, and where the project currently stands, and what I will be reading in June for the project, etc. So last week or something like that, recently, I was flipping through one of my tarot decks, and please don't turn off the video. I'm not going to talk about the tarot, but that tarot is what prompted me to think about the Mexican history reading project. Anyway, so I was flipping through one of my decks, which is the Tarot of the Four Elements by Isha Lerner, and I was looking at one of the cards from that deck, and when I saw it, it made me think of Ehecatl. Ehecatl is the god of wind in in Aztec culture specifically. I was going to say some cultures, but no, specifically in Aztec culture, and he was one of the top gods, one of the most important gods, Ehecatl. And I thought, I think I want to read more of Ehecatl and the stories and the mythology behind Ehecatl, because I think that reading more about these myths will give me more knowledge that I can't grasp from when I am interpreting the cards, the swords cards in the tarot. So I thought that, and I remembered that I had a Mexican history reading project, and I had several books on Mesoamerica and Mesoamerican myths and Mesoamerican mythology and Mesoamerican religion, etc., on my list for that project. And so I made a note of it, mental note of it, and thought, okay, yeah, I have to get going with that project again. Fast forward in time, and the Ancientsathon announcement happened. If you watched my video last week, you know that I had been mulling over several different options to read, and one of those options was Beowulf. I had the option of several translations of Beowulf. I didn't know which one to pick up. David Wiley kindly recommended me one that he said if you've never read it and it's the first time reading it, then you have to go ahead and read the Seamus Heaney translation. And I know it's not yet June, but I'm very excited and I want to read a lot. I mean, I really want to get into that readathon, and so I started reading Beowulf and also the group read, which is the Book of the City of Ladies by Christine de Pizan. I'm reading both of them and I am really enjoying both of them. As I was reading specifically Beowulf, I was thinking I am loving this, but I feel like I would like to read. I mean, if I'm going to read Beowulf, I want to accompany that with some mythology that is more local to me. And that's where my Mexican history project connects. I was like, oh yeah, I had already thought about this, that I had to read more from Mesoamerica. And so the first thing that came to mind was the Popol Vuh, which is one of the ancient Mayan texts. But then I started thinking, because I remember there were other, specifically there was another text, ancient Mesoamerican text, that I didn't remember the name of. And I was trying to remember it, so I was researching ancient Mesoamerican texts. And so that got me thinking about the project in a more formal way. And so I remembered that one of the things that I wanted to read for the Mesoamerican reading project were the letters from Hernán Cortés. Hernán Cortés was the lead conquistador a Spanish conquistador here. If you recall, I read my grandma's favorite novel a few months ago, which is all about the Spanish conquistadors and their time coming to Mesoamerica and all of that. And I really disliked that novel. And so I remember that there are letters that Hernán Cortés wrote, and they are compiled into a book where he talks about the experience of the conquest in Mesoamerica. After I read that novel, my grandma's favorite novel, I thought I wanted to read the letters of Hernán Cortés, which in Spanish are called Cartas de Relación de Hernán Cortés, and in English they are translated as Letters from Mexico, which is funny because, I mean, Mexico was not yet Mexico at the time, but that's how it's translated, Letters from Mexico. And I remembered, that made me remember that for Ancientsathon there is a prompt that is about reading non-fiction reading before 1700s. And so I thought, the letters from Mexico by Hernán Cortés could fulfill the prompt for the non-fiction prompt in Ancientsathon. And so that got me into the rabbit hole, where you're like, oh, well, if I already have these, then I'm going to do research for all of the prompts. And so I was like, okay, I want to keep digging, see what else there is about Mexican history, etc. And so I came across this huge monumental historical work by Fray Bernardino de Sahagún, who was a missionary priest that came to the Mesoamerican territory when the Spanish came and conquered. And when the Spanish came, they turned the Mesoamerican territories into New Spain. A quick history lesson. And so he was a priest that was here at that time, and over the course of 30 years, he wrote 12 volumes of history of the New Spain. It's called, I'm going to roughly translate it, but it's called The Histories of the Things of the New Spain. And it was written by Fray Bernardino de Sahagún in the 1500s. It took him 30 years of his life, and as I said, there are 12 volumes with over 1,000 pages. So I'm of course not going to read the entirety of that work in June for Ancientsathon, but when I saw that one, I thought I would prefer to read that over the letters from Mexico by Hernán Cortés. And so I thought, well, I really want to read this. I'm not going to read the 12 volumes, but I would like to read the first volume for Ancientsathon, and that will cover the prompt of the non-fiction category. I was doing some looking around, and the first volume is all about the religions of the Mesoamerican people, and that really, really interests me. I'm just dying to start with that book. It sounds super interesting. And so I thought, okay, so for Ancientsathon, I'm already reading Beowulf. I'm already halfway through. I'm probably going to finish it before June starts. I'm already reading the group read, which is also very quick to read. I don't know if I'll finish it before June starts, but I'm definitely going to finish it soon. As I said, because I have zero self-control and I love, you know I love readathons, I love planning TBRs. Once I had already those 3 books and they cover several prompts, I was like, well, now I have to cover all of the prompts and create a proper TBR to read for Ancientsathon. And so I was going over the prompts and I realized that I had most of them covered. The first prompt is to read a play, which, as I said, I'm not going to do, and yeah, so no. But the second prompt is to read a work of non-fiction. So for the work of non-fiction, I will be reading the first volume of the Histories of the Things of the New Spain by Fray Bernardino de Sahagún. I'm very, very excited about that one. And then it's to read a work of poetry. So for the work of poetry, I am already reading Beowulf, which is an epic poem. And then it's to read a work over 300 pages. So for that one, the first volume of the Histories covers that prompt. It's over 300 pages. And then the next one is to read a work. It's time to stop thinking about and start reading. So for that one, I am going to be using Beowulf because it's one that I've had in the back of my mind for a long time. But also the next book that I'm going to read for the next prompt. The next prompt is to read a work that is religion or mythology based. What came to mind was actually one of the Gospels from the Bible. And as I said, this one will cover the previous prompt as well, which is to read a book that is time to stop thinking about and actually read. Obviously I've read texts from the Bible. I'm a Catholic, so obviously I have, but I have never read any of the books of the Bible from beginning to end as a book. And it's been a while since I've wanted to do that. Just from a literary standpoint, it's very interesting to me. I am currently reading a book called The Silence of Mary by Ignacio de Larrañaga. Ignacio de I'm going to put the name here. And in the introduction, it really goes deep into the history of when the Gospels were written. Particularly, it talks about the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of John. All of the things that are said in that book about the Gospel of Luke were really interesting to me. And when I read the introduction for that book, The Silence of Mary, I thought, oh, I want to read the Gospel of Luke. And from a personal standpoint and for a personal spiritual project of mine, I want to read the Gospel and focus on Mary. So that's I'm not going to go deep into that, but that's like a personal study of mine. I thought, okay, so that covers the religion prompt and the prompt of reading something that you've been meaning to read and that you haven't. And then the final prompt is to read through the ages by picking works from the ancient world, medieval period, and Renaissance. And I think I kind of have works all across the board. As I said, the Gospel of Luke is like ancient work, and then the next one in chronological order, I think the next would be Beowulf, and then after that would be the Book of the City of Ladies, which I think is from the 1400s, and then the Histories of the Things of New Spain is from the 1500s. And of course the last one is to read the group read, which I am already reading and thoroughly enjoying. So it turns out I do have a ton of reading plans for June. Last video I was like, I'm going to go easy on myself because I'm just getting out of a really rough period of time and I wasn't feeling up to reading and blah blah blah. And then this week I'm like, I'm reading all the things. We'll see how it goes when I do my June wrap up, but hopefully I will be able to get to all of the books because I am excited for all of them. But yeah, so I think this was like the most rambly video I have ever done in my life. I don't think it had any type of order whatsoever. I hope it was interesting to you. I'm just excited about my reading plans for June. So yes, those are the plans. That are all the things. I will look forward to reading you in the comments. Please tell me if you're participating in Ancientsathon or what you think about what I will be reading. And that will be it for the moment. Yes, in the meantime, I wish you happy reading.